Hi everyone, my name is Mariam Zaidi. I'm the programmer of South Asian films at the Toronto Real Asian International Film Festival. A very, very big thank you to National Bank for sponsoring the screening of Mogul Mowgli. We really hope you enjoyed the film. For this Q&A, we're really excited to have director of Mogul Mowgli, Bassam Tariq, here with us, along with Arshad Khan, who will be moderating the discussion. Arshad Khan is a Montreal-based filmmaker and film festival director of the Mosaic International South Asian Film Festival, or MISAF, as they're more fondly known, based in Mississauga, Ontario. MISAF is also a community partner for the screening, so thank you so much to them for all their support. And just to tell you a little bit more about Arshad, his internationally acclaimed award-winning autobiographical documentary Abu has played at over 65 film festivals around the world and won 15 awards so far. Abu documents his rocky relationship with his father after Khan came out as a gay man. It also chronicles the wider story of young gay people fighting homophobia and invisibility within South Asian and Muslim culture. Arshad is currently writing his first fiction feature, tentatively titled Anyone But Him, which examines love among the other Pandora's baggage that immigrants carry to their adoptive homelands. Bassam Tariq, as we all know, is the director of the much anticipated film Mogul Mowgli and is a writer and director currently based between Texas and London. His previous film, Ghosts of Sugarland, won the Short Film Jury Award at Sundance Film Festival and was shortlisted for a Short Documentary Oscar. Arshad and Bassam, welcome to the 24th Toronto Real Asian International Film Festival, and thank you so much for being here for this conversation.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mariam. And once again, welcome to the Toronto Real Asian Film Festival Talk Back with Filmmakers. My name is Arshad Khan. As Mariam said, I'm so delighted to be here to do this Q&A. What an honor and what a wonderful opportunity for me to be hosting a Q&A with a multiple award-winning filmmaker, Bassam Tariq. He won an award at the festival I run, MISAF, for his film These Birds Walk, Best Documentary Award. Absolutely stunning film that went to many festivals around the world. And it is my great pleasure to have Bassam here with his first fiction feature, which was at Berlinale this year. And every festival since then has wanted this film because it's absolutely a genre-defying, beautiful, important, contemporary tale, which many people, whether they're South Asian or not, can relate to. But specifically, if you're South Asian or Pakistani or Muslim living in the West, you can really relate to it. It's a brilliant film playing at Real Asian until the 19th. Please catch it and please welcome Bassam Tariq. How are you?
Hey man, how are you? I'm good, man. I'm good. How about you? How you doing, man? It's good to be having this conversation with you.
I am so delighted with your film. It moved me so deeply. Everyone I have talked to who has had the pleasure of seeing the film feels that you are such a mature filmmaker and you have made this film with so much heart and so much passion using one of the most important actors of our time in this world, Rizwan Ahmed, also known as Riz Ahmed, who's a poet and an actor and a performer, and he has co-written the film with you. I would like to know how this film project came about.
Yeah, so Riz had actually seen These Birds Walk, and my co-director Omar Malik and him became good friends. And Omar was like, "I think you should meet Riz. I feel like you guys would get along." And so Riz and I met. I love calling him Rizwan. The funny thing is, I don't. It's just that we all just know him as Riz now. So we do that. But on my phone and in conversations, like I do also call him Rizwan. But the funny thing is that even in his own family, he's not called Rizwan. You know, he's called Golu, and I think like in a lot of Muhajir families or a lot of like Urdu speaking families, like everyone has a nickname, right? Like even in my own household, like no one ever called me Bassam. So it is interesting that like, well, what is a name? And but yeah, that's how we met, man. We met through friends, and I think we had a mutual admiration for each other's work, and I think we had a desire to work with each other. We just didn't know what shape it would take or how it would. So in some ways, man, this film was a desire to see like, is it possible for us to work together? You know, can we as like South Asian or, you know, Muslim artists actually figure out ways to collaborate, not just talk about it? Because I feel like there's so much talk about all of us collaborating. So it's kind of exciting to like see it happen for once.
Okay, you're moving your hand or something because it's affecting your audio, just to let you know. And I know you want to have crisp and clear sound. We
Oh, okay.
filmmakers care
Sorry.
about
So,
that.
yeah. Sorry. Okay, cool.
Thank
Just a
you for
little
fixing
hairband.
that.
Yeah.
It's okay. Well, the
Yeah.
thing is, this is an exciting time for South Asian filmmakers like yourself. And I think it's really important that we work with each other. And I think it's fascinating that, you guys connected because your film, These Birds Walk, was so well received, and Riz saw it and saw the potential in you guys. And that's how you guys came together. Now, I noticed that you both wrote it together. So how did that
Yeah.
collaboration take place? Now, it's one thing that, the actor has seen your film and knows that you got potential, but it's a whole other thing for them to entrust you with such a extremely personal, relatable story that I think even might have to do something with his own life. How did the script come about?
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? I think the friendship was important, right? I feel like having that friendship, and I think us slowly inviting ourselves into each other's lives it was a process. I don't think that I had a desire to make a deeply personal film with him. It wasn't like it was just more like, let's go see how far. Like, I think we both took a trip to Pakistan together, and I think I learned a lot about him in that trip, and also his desire of connecting with something bigger than himself, and also a desire for him to try to unpack things in his own life. And I think I always had that desire, but the way I always do it, man, is like, because I'm too afraid to look at myself. And I think that's maybe why I've done documentaries, that I'd rather look at other people and then through them, project myself. So I think he served as a really good muse as that. So I was writing a lot of the earlier drafts of the film, but I knew that in order for me to get the authenticity and I think the details of all this stuff correct, particularly with London, man. I'm a New York kid. I'm in Texas right now. Like, my connection to London is very little. Like, it's actually non-existent before Riz. And to really be there, like when I was there, I was really humbled on how little I knew about it, how the city, how spread out, how sprawling it is. I mean, we had to work on this together in order for this to work. And I think the way we were able to open up with one another was I think our families and our parents are so similar that it just felt like, even though we live on different sides of the Atlantic, there's a lot of stuff that I think, is very similar in how we were growing up.
Well, what's connecting you is obviously the culture and the background, and that you're both children of Pakistani immigrants. And I think that's weaved through very well. I did also personally, because I didn't watch it with subtitles, I did have a little bit of trouble understanding the British accent at times. But I
Yeah.
think that your film is so beautifully shot and created that it didn't really make such a big difference. Now, you've packed a lot of things into this film. You've packed the Pakistani cultural nuances, the
Yeah.
Muslim cultural nuances, a lot of comedy, a lot of politics, even racial tension. And I think that's what makes your film extremely exciting and extremely unique, that you're able to capture the zeitgeist. I want to know a little bit more about how you brought that in, how you weave
I
that in.
think, yeah, I mean, man, it's like, I think that the thing about Riz that I've realized with his music is he's quite a maximalist. He likes to throw everything in. Like, whenever you listen to his music, it's never just one thing. Like, he'll talk about 10 different things in a song. And I think that that's always been his kind of exciting, it's like a blessing and a curse thing, I think. And I think particularly this is the problem that, I don't know if you ever feel this way, Arshad, when you're making a film, but you feel like, I may not have another chance to make another film, so I want to throw everything in. So I think that I was also fighting some of those desires that I had of like, I want to talk about this and I want to talk about this. So there's a version of this film, a scripted version that we have, that's just so like unnecessarily complicated. And what we've done is we actually stripped it away. So it's still a complicated film, but we tried to keep the meat of it, the meat of the things that really excited us at the forefront. And I think, man, like the fact that I could anchor this film in such an exciting and talented actor, both in Riz and Ali Khan, who played the father, Sudha Bachar, who's the mother, and then Vasim, who's the manager. Like, the fact that I had all these people to kind of anchor the film in, it just allowed me to just push it further and further and see, okay, great, how can I get all these people to make the film even better? Like Nabhan Rizwan, who does the who plays the character of RPG, he's the one that brought RPG to life. Like I had another name for the character, like it was written differently. And then coming from documentary, Arshad, like something that we have to be good at is like adapting, right? So here's a guy that comes in who himself is, Napan is himself an aspiring rapper. And he's like, man, I would do it this way. I would do it this way. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, well, then let's go so we took his face, literally. Like, I printed out his face. I sat with him. I'm like, what does this guy look like? Like, let's go sit and build out this guy's face. And he's like, well, what if we call him RPG? And I was like, all right, let's do that. He goes, well, I want to call him Little Young RPG. I'm like, all right, that's a bit far. Let's just call him RPG. You know what I mean? But like, so there was so much of this ongoing, there was a riffing. Like, he even went into his studio to go record Pussy Fried Chicken, so like it was him. He wrote all those lyrics. And I think like I have to just like so there's an element of this, man. Like you have to like I was like, I want to bring the best of all these people into this. And we have is this incredible anchoring performance of Riz. We're gonna get Riz at the center of this, but make sure that all these other people can really be these incredible sprites and have these moments all around it, so it all feels cohesive as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The performances are quite outstanding. Very, very strong. And I think that Ali Khan and Riz Ahmed work very well together. And I loved how you went back and forth in time seamlessly, and you really believed it. Ali Khan has such this diversity that he can play young and he can play old, and he can play both with such seamlessness. How was it working with Ali Khan? I mean, he's an
great,
Indian
man.
Pakistani person with kind of a dual nationality even to this day, because he flies between two countries and he works in both countries. So it's a very interesting person that you cast. And then you use and you use the partition as well as a device, to connect the two.
Yeah, man. So it's really tough, right? Because now that people have seen the film, it's like Ali Khan is actually a younger. I mean, he's like in his 50s, and we need him to play somebody that's a little bit older. And it was a tough proposition. But like, one, I think we had a great makeup artist, because you don't want to go like somebody looking overly old where it's like, that's just, even though, because like, there is this like element of like, partition happened. This guy's got to look like a certain age. And the interesting thing is that, man, like I wanted it to be a Muslim actor, right? Like it was so important to me that the father was somebody that had an understanding of Islam, that the words of the surah and all that can just fall off of his tongue seamlessly, right? Whereas we were speaking to a lot of incredible actors that we admired, but their relationship with Islam would be very contentious, or they themselves were not Muslim. And that to me was really tough. I was like, because I need this person to really embody this faith in a beautiful and dignified way, right? And not in this kind of, sometimes we've seen in Bollywood, where sometimes like the way they show people being religious, it's like the littlest action is like a little off and you go, I don't believe it anymore, right? But Ali Khan himself is someone that is very open about his Islam, right? Is open about his own practice. So we're like, great, let's go bring this guy in and let's see how we can make it look, like believable, hopefully, that this guy's a little bit older, right? And do all that. And that was a really hard thing for me, because, man, coming from documentary, right? And literally everyone looking like themselves or different versions of themselves, Ali Khan had to have probably the biggest transformation in some capacity. And that was tough for me. That was really hard for me to understand. And I think Ali Khan really just rose to the occasion, and I thought brought this really beautiful, dignified approach. And I think his own, and just his eyes are just so incredible, and his performance and what he brings in different moments is just so great. So it was really an honor to work with him.
And speaking of the faith, there's a lot of symbolism, Islamic symbolism, spiritual symbolism, but also what's happening with Muslims and the Ummah, and the relationship, you have with being a performer and or a rapper, or having a little bit of fame, and how you're treated by people. And you also kind of deal with the interfaith, multi-ethnic kind of tensions here as well, which I found very interesting. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, man. I think like the thing is that like, see, we don't exist in these like pockets of just like, I think particularly as Muslim South Asian artists, we exist in a lot of these Venn diagrams, right? Where we're not like just Indian and Hindu or something, right? Where it's like you can exist in the subcontinent and you can exist in this really beautiful experience, that I think can be quite siloed. I mean, I'm speaking in terrible generals, right? But and I don't want to
No,
speak for other
no,
people's
you're right.
experiences.
You're
Yeah,
correct. It's
yeah,
intersectionality. We're living with
yeah,
intersectionality, and it's a very complex intersectionality. It's not even just
yeah.
like a few things. It's many things. But go ahead.
Yeah. But so very similar to even you, Aishad, right? Who's like it's incredible all the different communities that you have a foot in, right? And I think how beautifully and dignified, even you talk about the ummah, right? Like the fact that there is a larger Muslim experience, right? That you yourself are also a part of. And then of course there's the LGBT Muslim experience. What does the queer Muslim experience look like? And what does that look like globally then, right? So then you also have something that's going on just in the Western world, right? Or whatever, the quote unquote Western world, or even, in Canada or Montreal, because you can be quite specific of those experiences. Just for you, but it's just like that with like, for us, like, I think what's interesting for somebody like Zed or even Riz is that a lot of your fans are possibly Muslim Westerners that are trying to translate how to exist and how to, how to inhabit being Muslim in this world. But at the same time, you then also have the intersection of people that are Pakistani or that are Indian, right? That may not even have any semblance of being Muslim. So I've always found that kind of interesting of like when you go to like even a Riz Ahmed concert, like and I'd done that. Like I was curious to like what his fan base looks like. And it's this weird intersection of all these different kinds of people, right? And I find that like really exciting. I was like, I didn't know that like you reach out to like a lot of like Moroccan Muslim people were there, right? Like, or like, and you have like these group of hijabis that love him, right? And like, and I'm not, and I'm just like, I'm being really I'm generalizing here. Just like, it doesn't mean that just because you wear hijab, you're someone that's like overly practicing or whatever, but there's something connecting with his music, right? And then you have a lot of people that are like not, that are complete atheists that don't even believe in being Muslim or call themselves culturally Muslim. And they're also there being connected to it. So I think when you exist and you can connect to all these people, you also put yourself in a lot of troubling conversations. You're not going to please everybody, and someone's going to be pissed by decisions that you make and how you exist as an artist.
I think the you took the most advantage of this. This was absolutely hilarious. That scene where the guy comes and checks him on how he hands the toke to him with the left hand instead of the
Yeah,
right hand, because it's
yeah,
so, I mean, I just died. Like I was like, oh my God, thank you. I was like, thank you, because this is the kind of irritating shit. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but that makes me absolutely crazy. This kind of stuff when people do these self-righteous things, because they think they're gonna, they have this thing they have to correct everybody. I love how you take a piece of all these different things, these little, things that we have in our culture and our communities and within communities. So well done on that.
but
It was
but
very
but
funny.
thank you. But something that but something that I will say is like, I like it's not just I hope it's not just like a polemical hit on something like that, because the funny thing is like I also agree with that guy, right? Like it's like, hey, if you're gonna do it, that's cool, but just like, yo, it's like it's a bit disrespectful to hand me this with the left hand, like, like that's
Oh,
saying me
good
like,
Lord.
what I mean? So that's like, honestly, like I'm being completely honest here. Maybe I am more of that guy, of the rude boy, than I am Zed in some ways, but that's how I kind of, because I also see there's a desire to make each other better, right? It's like, hey, we're all in this together, and I just wanted to give you some advice. And it's like, but you're trying to already put me in a box, because you know what I mean. So it's like, I don't know. It's a bit tough. It's a bit tough, but it's interesting because I do think it is triggering for a lot of people in different ways. So
Yeah, because like you give advice to people who want to, who are ready to hear that advice, not someone who's already kind of struggling with so much tension and is like
yeah,
really about to
yeah,
have a collapse of their health. And and celebrities, or even smaller celebrities, sometimes like they're hounded by people. And I thought that insensitivity of people was very nicely framed, in
mm,
that context, where and also the question of fitting in, like how do you fit in? Are you the right kind of Muslim? Are you Muslim enough or too
yeah,
Muslim? All those
yeah,
questions come up in your film. And I think that's an interfaith dialogue that is to be had. And I think it's interesting how you kind of show those perspectives and work with those perspectives, which makes your film even more interesting. Now, I also want to know how it was with, the mom is also a very interesting character. And I appreciated how treat her character, with lots of comedy, to catch on to, but also how the husband, wife, the father, mother, interact. That was very, very interesting. I thought. So tell me a little bit about
Yeah,
how you
man.
wrote that character.
Yeah, it's really tough, isn't it? Like there were so many scenes that I wrote, and we ended up either not having the I think we were just we had to adapt to a lot of changing things. But I wanted to say that Sudha was so incredible to work with, and one of my biggest, I would say, gripes with my own work is that I wish I just wrote more for her, and I figured out a way to make those things work. And I remember when we were doing pickups, I was like, I just want to make, I want more of the mother in the film. I love her, and she's like, and I wrote it really in
She's
honor of my mother.
amazing.
Yeah,
She's
and I
amazing.
wanted more. Yeah, and I wanted more of her, and I feel like now what I'm doing is actually what's so funny is because I think, like, here's the thing, right? Like, this is Arshad, I think it's like what they say about, like, killing your darlings or whatever. It's like there was an element of like this film where I wanted it to feel like a train, and it's like a train is coming, and we're literally in the tunnel, and we're moving fast, and this train's going to come at you, and then it's going to end. And that's how I wanted this film to feel. And I think in that, in the desire of pacing things, in the desire of certain things that I wanted to make sure I keep, there were things that had to be then taken off. And I think Sudha was one of those things, those elements, or even Vasim, the manager who I love. Like, I think Anjana Vasan is an incredible talent. She's a juggernaut.
Absolutely.
She's, yeah. And so when I see people like Anjana and Sudha and even Ali Khan, like, I'm like, I want more of all, I want all of them. You know what I mean? Like, more in the film. So there's this element of me, like, I would love to just kind of like, just do more of stuff with them in different capacities, because I think that the timing was such that this is that story, and I want to respect how specific we are with this, and we'll allow people to come in here and there, but there's even why, like, the intentional framing of the 4-3, and just like, let's keep this focused.
It keeps focused and it keeps you in the claustrophobic realm, it keeps you like in this place where you're like, what's happening, why, and you feel the claustrophobia. So I think that was very, very, very effective. Now I would
Yeah,
like to talk about editing, since this kind of
yeah.
segues into editing. Who's edited and who's helped you edit the film? And I mean, it's beautifully edited film with a lot of innovation, I find. So tell us a little bit about
Mhm.
about that.
Yeah, man. So Adam Biskupski was our principal editor. He's the one that brought this film to life. Like, that's full stop. Like, I don't know where I'd be without Adam. And Adam, I saw his work first. He did the Frank Ocean's Nike video. It was just like a video that was, and it's this music video. It's one of the most daring and most exciting music videos I've ever seen in my life. And it was edited so beautifully. And I'm like, who edited this video? So I looked him up, and I always kept him like on the back of my mind. And he really would, every time, he would always have a different idea, a different way in, and he would just do things that always excited me. And he always pushed us to be better. And I don't know, like, I feel like I'm just so excited with that relationship that him and I built working on this film, and to see how much of himself he brought into it, particularly him being a British, like an English guy, and he's just so smart and so great with thinking of music and sound. And every time I'd leave and I'd come back to the edit, I'd be scared, I'd be frightened with what he's done, because it would make me rethink everything about what the film could be.
And using those archival videos, whose idea was that?
That's Adam. That wasn't even Riz's idea. Like, Riz didn't even know. Like, I was like back chatting with his mom and like his other people in his family to get stuff, because we wanted to build out London in a way that felt like, I think our film doesn't use a lot of cutaways. There's like very few, like, just shots of things, and and kind of that whole like montage of like a city, like, what is it that so we wanted to just really just do things that were in the most unexpected way. Like, how do we show the feeling of being in London? Like, how can we show parts of London perhaps through an archival eye that also feels very much grounded in the reality of Zed? So I think pushing to find things that resonated with this like experience of Zed was kind of important, and to find things that were from that time that felt real to to an experience that a kid might be having growing up in London.
It was so effective. It was so believable, and it was so well done. Congratulations and bravo on that. I would like to know about this very particular scene where this rapping is going on back and forth. I want to talk about that. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? How that came about? And I mean, that's very full of tension, that scene.
Which one? Which one?
Where
The
there's a
battle
black
rap?
rapper. Yeah,
Yes, yes. That scene was really important to me,
the
man,
battle
for a
rap.
lot of reasons. Yeah. So it's based on a real story that happened to Riz. He sent me this video of something that happened that was very similar to this. I was like, this is unbelievable. Where he said a rap line that I think didn't land the way that he wished it would. And I was like, oh my God, like, how did you survive that? Like, how are you not traumatized? And then he was booed off stage. And it was just so crazy. It was so crazy to watch it. And I was just like, we have to, like, because I think so much of the film, man, is like us reliving, like, or me writing things to torment Riz of like my own past traumas. Of like, okay, this is the thing that happened to me. All right, we owned it, like we owned a restaurant that never like got off the ground, you know, like how do we, you know what I mean? So like all these things, like I like, you know, like we had a Nigerian, like, you know, hair supply store. Like, so this is all these things
That's
that like,
so
I was just
funny.
like, I'm gonna just throw all this stuff in for my own life. But then when Riz shared this
Yeah.
with me, I was like, we need to experience this. So the funny thing is, Riz didn't even write his own lines for what the rap was going to be. I just was like, all right, cool. We're going to, you know, I'm not going to even tell you what this guy's going to say to you. So we're just going to show up. So he showed up and literally it's him waking up, right? And then I have this guy, Carice, who's the, you know, who himself is a battle rapper. And he comes in and he just like goes in at Zed. And I was like, okay, we need to talk about appropriation here because that was really important to me. Is that something that we have to acknowledge, at least here in the States, man, is that, you know, a lot of people of color, a lot of Asian artists, when they've become actors or whatever, is so much of their rise has come from performing blackness, right? Like we've taken blackness and we've used hip hop, or we've used different forms of blackness to break in. And sometimes we do it from like a really, how do I say it? Like as a kind of ironic thing or whatever it is, like we have to at least acknowledge that this is a black art form and we are in some ways appropriating it, right? So it's a conversation about the tensions that exist in us occupying the space, being in the space. How do we inhabit this space? I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I just think that there's tension in it, and we need to acknowledge that tension, and we need to know that how we move in it and how we contend with it and how we operate in it is from a framework that is contentious, you know? And anyway, so I felt like we wanted to talk about that as well. So
I think that was really well done. Absolutely beautiful, amazing, very important, and really like kind of with the zeitgeist, you know, and with the, I think that, I think that's very important to address. Yeah. And also, I thought that the relationship was very, very poignant. His relationship with that woman, and the whole idea of being, you know, losing, you know, the ability to procreate, you know, and that scene, you know, and that was very interesting. How did you end up with that decision, like for writing that the ending like that?
so the funny thing is the spitting that happened, you know, it was, we weren't sure if we were gonna, how he was gonna spit or what. And you know, it's I forget like what we had written and what we didn't, but I think there was an element of us just leaving Riz there alone on the phone. And and we just had her call him a few times, and you know, and we tried it so many different ways, and then in the end we
Okay.
just go with the one where like we were just on Riz's face the entire time. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope people find this as compelling as I do, because it's a bit, you know, it's like a lot, like it's just, I've always, I think this has always been a tension for me, is like how we cut in a film, you know? And I think maybe it's also a documentary thing that like sometimes when we cut away, it's always like, oh, we're cutting away because we need, you know, it's like we just need to like move the story faster or whatever. So I'm always very suspicious of that, particularly in fiction, because if you've constructed this world, you have to make sure that you construct it in a way where the cadence isn't being lost. So I think it was really, I mean, it was one of those, you know, it was one of the last scenes that we filmed, because we filmed the movie chronologically. So I think at that point we'd all gotten into a rhythm of where this character is. And you know, we were literally spending days and days in the hospital. So when he started to actually look at the photos of Bina for the first time, or of Aisha Hart's photos, it was like this moment of like, I think all of us were just like, oh my God, there's a life outside this hospital that exists, you know? And that was kind of a weird feeling too for us.
Yeah, and I think that the way that his masculinity was challenged was very interesting, and I think it was very well written. How did you come up with that writing?
Yeah, I mean, it was so. it was, you know, what we did was we workshopped it with Aisha Hart. She was there with us, and we kind of just like,
Okay, okay, okay.
you know, we like talked through with her, like what felt right for her, what gave her agency, because I think that was an important thing where it's like in a film that's so male dominated,
Yeah,
like so much of Riz and his father, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, we need to make sure that women have agency in these moments. And it's like, she's like already living her life. She's like out at like a brunch or something, and you know, and she's doing her own thing, like, oh, hey, right? Like, didn't know that you're, you know what I mean? Like, and then it's like
yeah,
she's concerned for him, but then at the same time she's like, I'm not gonna like, well, who do you think I am, you know? So I think that that was something that was quite important to keep in.
yeah. The film, you know, in a way, it leaves you really upset and dissatisfied, and really challenge all your notions, because we are so fed with like these ideas of romance and romanticism, and women behaving a certain way, or you know, capitulating to male desire all the time, or male demands. And I thought this was like a little, like, you know, back off and just, you know, put you put you in your place kind of moment. And I think it worked really well. Your film has this really great ebb and flow, and you know, kudos to your your editor and your sound designer. But tell me a little bit about the sound design, because you know the soundscape's very important in your film, and it's really brings you in and takes you out and makes you claustrophobic and lets you breathe. So how did that work out?
Yeah, man, I think our sound design and our composer kind of worked hand in hand. We had Paul Corley and Paul Davies. Paul Davies did the sound design for like Lynn Ramsey's work.
Wow.
He does, yeah, he did You're Never Really Here, and he's just a phenomenal thinker, and how he designs things, and how he would go, and he was like, okay, like, and I was like, the whole thing is us just building a train. That's all. I was like, we're building a train, and what does this train sound like, and how do we continue to build? So even like the first sound that
Yeah.
you hear is like this old steam train that like it's actually from the partition era. How do we get that sound going and just kind of building? And then it's a slow, and it's a slow build to this train that we never like. You know, we didn't shoot a train. We just shot like things. So how do we get this visceral quality of flesh and metal hitting? And that was something that I've been thinking a lot about. So I think that was something that Paul Corley was also bringing in. So I feel like I don't know where the sound design ends and the music begins, because I think it was so much of it was just brought in together. And the reason, like, and the funny thing is, we did have a more traditional score at one point, but then, man, when we were in the final mix, like, I was just watching like Riz's performance, and it always just felt like, oh, this is taking away from the performance. We're underscoring it too much. We're being manipulative now, so let's just cut it back, bring it back, bring it back. So in the end, and Paul Corley was so incredible with this soundscapes that like so much of the sound design that we used were these beautiful sounds that Paul Corley was creating. So we were really lucky to just have both of them work together and egolessly just find the best way to bring this world to life.
And who were your influences for this film? Like, who were the corollary films, or you think about when you were thinking of this film?
Yeah, man. So I would say that there were like two films that I keep coming back to, just to kind of you know, I would say Gueros, which is this film that was made in Mexico in 2014. It's this incredible film. It's one of the best like debut films I've ever seen in my life. It was just so free. It was just so experimental, and I was like, this is the kind of energy that
Hmm.
I want in my work, and it's just the kind of the freedom of like, oh, you know, fuck structure. We're just gonna do things in a way that feels right for us in Mexico, and it's so vibrant. It's so alive, and it's about brothers, and it's about music, and it's also this road trip film, and it was also deeply political, and I wanted to do something like that, and I wanted to have that energy. I think Lane is something that we have to also talk about. The Hurt, you know, the film that
French film.
the French film that I feel like is so, you know, influential for so many reasons, and so inventive in how it, like every scene just kind of steals your heart and breaks, and you know, and also like kicks you in the nuts, right, at the same time. So I feel like, you know, that was something that we had looked to. But I would say that another film that I love is Post Tenebras Lux, that Omar Malik turned me on to, which is Carlos Regades's film that he released a few years ago. And it's like trippy parts of memory and how memory works, and everything's connected through like a very loose thread. But it was so beautiful and so honest and so vulnerable that I wanted to bring that tactility. I wanted to bring that kind of honesty to the film. And I don't think I have that kind of mastercraft that Regadas has, but I was really moved by his ability to make me think of the unseen in a way that I hadn't. So yeah, so I sort of wanted to channel that kind of an energy.
Well, you know, your film is marvelous. It's wonderful. Thank you for making it. Thank you so much for caring about, you know, our intersectional identities. Thank you for being a kind of a light, you know, Pakistani, Muslim, American, amazing human being who we can all be proud of to call a fellow filmmaker. Thank you so much for your hard work and your passion. We hope you great success to your film. And we really
Oh,
hope
thank you,
that,
man.
you know, we wish you all the best for your next film. Thank you,
Arshad, I've no,
Bassam
no, no.
Tariq.
Before we leave, no, thank you. I want to know, what are you up to now, man? Like I heard that you're working on this new thing, and honestly, like you're Canada's finest, man. It's so great to be doing this Q&A with you. It's really my honor, man. Like I've been seeing you championing so many filmmakers for so long, and I think
You're
it's
so
really
kind.
important to acknowledge you. You know, both as like someone that's not only a programmer but also someone that's also a creator, right? Like I feel like there's this, and this is something worth talking about. Is like what happens is that we actually get really competitive with one another, right? It just happens. And and in that, and you've always been so great at like breaking that, like, yo, shut up. Like, we're in this together. I know who you are, right? I know you're a Pakistani kid, blah, blah. You're insecure like me, you're blah, blah, blah. So with that vulnerability that you bring, I just wanted to really thank you for that, because it's always disarming. It's always so honest. It's always just you.
You're
And you
very
know,
kind.
we need more of that. So thank you, Aisha, for bringing that kind of
I have angels,
tenacity and
just like we
persistence.
all do. Thank you. That's very sweet. Like, you know, who have helped me on my journey, you know, and actually I have Real Asian to thank also, because this film festival literally gave us the money to start and get on our feet. It is such a
Wow.
great film festival. And also once I was watching an Annie Lennox interview, and she said that a rising tide lifts all boats, you know, and she said that individual competition is vicious. Collective
Mm,
Collectively we have to work and lift everybody up, because we
wow.
cannot be bringing each other down. If we do not lift each other up, if we are busy bringing each other down, we will all suffer. So very early on I had that in my head, and this is what has kind of helped propel me, because I know that other people's uplift means my uplift. And I
Ah,
thank you, and I thank Real Asian
same,
and those people.
likewise, man. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank you for a
much, Arshad.
beautiful
Bye.
interview. I just want to say to the Real Asian Film Festival viewers, the festival is on until the 19th of November with excellent, outstanding films. Please share it on social media, invite your friends, help support independent cinema and fantastic voices like Bassam Tariq's, and enjoy the movies. Thank you and have a good night.
All right. Thank you.